Welcome to episode 228 of CppCast, the first podcast for C++ developers by C++ developers. I'm your host, Rob Irving, joined by my co-host, Jason Turner. Jason, how's it going today? Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Rob. Things are going pretty well, I'd say. How are you doing?
Doing fine. It's the first day of the new year. You do anything special over Christmas or New Year's?
Had family in town, but otherwise tried to still, enjoy the fact that I've been home for a couple of weeks straight.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, it still feels like a little bit weird, I guess.
Yeah, because you got back from your travels just like a week or two before Christmas, right? Something like that.
Uh, I don't know.
You're busy. You're busy in November and December. Let's leave it
I
at that.
was busy in November and December. Now I feel like I have to look and see since our listeners are on the edge of their seats. I actually got home on the 6th.
Okay.
So I had 2.5 weeks until Christmas.
Yeah.
And then we were, busy doing normal things, going to, local craft fairs and, that
Nice.
kind of thing. But now at the new year, I've gotten the last few days to just kind of chill.
Yeah. Yeah, we had plenty of family too. My wife is one of five, and all but one of her siblings made it to our
Ooh.
house. So it was pretty crowded, but they all left, just like 2 days after Christmas, and we've had the last few days just to wind down and actually just put away the tree and everything today.
Our tree is still up. It is losing its needles rapidly at this point. It needs to come down in the next couple
Yeah.
of days.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at top of our episode, I'd like to read a piece of feedback. We got this from Loic on Facebook, and he wrote, "Hi, Rob and Jason. I've listened to CppCast for many years now. I started around episode 5. I just want to send you a quick message to thank you for the high-quality podcast. Keep up the good work. Cheers, Loic." And he also has a PS saying, "Why don't you use a Let's Encrypt certificate for the CppCast website?" And I'll be honest, I had not heard of Let's Encrypt, but it seems to be a free and like open source provider of certificates that you can use to add SSL to your website. So I might look into that next time we need to renew this.
So the website is not currently actually hosted on GitHub Pages, right?
No, I'm using what was it called? Oh, I spent so much time doing this like 3 months ago. I can't
Right.
remember the name of it now, but it's not GitHub Pages. I host it on Azure. Yeah. What were you going to say though?
Oh, GitHub Pages. GitHub Pages I know has free built-in support, even with custom domains for encrypted
Okay.
pages. And I think they use the Let's Encrypt or something like that also.
Okay. Well, I have paid for a certificate, but I will look into Let's Encrypt when that comes up for renewal so that don't
Wait,
need
so it
to-
does currently have a...
Yeah.
Uh,
CppCast? Yeah, the website.
well, I just noticed if you go straight if you just go to cppcast.com, it does not forward you to
Yeah.
HTTPS.
But you
It
can
lets you go to
put in the HTTPS URL. I'm sure there's a way to forward it to it, but I'm not a web developer. That's something we should probably figure out. Yeah. Anyway, that's definitely a good tip that I will look into. And yeah, thanks for listening, Loic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'd love to hear your thoughts about the show. You can always reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, or email us at feedback@cppcast.com. And don't forget to leave a review on iTunes or subscribe on YouTube. So we don't have a guest today because, it is New Year's Day. It's kind of hard to grab someone to come on and talk with us this week. But we'll definitely have a guest next week. So we thought, two of us would just go over some news because it's been a while since we talked, even though we did have an episode out 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it is January 1st.
Yeah.
So before we get into the news,
Mhm,
I just did this Twitter poll. I said it's 2020 and I can't believe I still don't have my blank.
Ooh.
So
That's a good one. I missed that on Twitter.
do you have an answer to that, Rob?
I mean, yeah, I still want my flying car. I still want my jetpack. Yeah, there's a lot I still want.
Time machine, perhaps?
That's a bit much. I don't know. I'm not sure if I need a time machine. Offworld Colonies, that's a good one.
Oh, did you just go to?
I just looked at Twitter and I'm looking at this now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Offworld Colonies is actually the one that won the poll there.
I mean, maybe by 2030, they're talking about Mars. Elon Musk wants to get there, right? Maybe.
Maybe. We'll see. If the planet's still here in 2030. I'm trying to be optimistic on January 1st, but a lot of the responses to my tweet are not optimistic.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like anyone else is coming up with too many more fun answers. Mostly C++ stuff. People are saying it would be nice to have modules by 2020 or 2030.
A packaging system.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Anything you're hoping or anything you can't believe we don't have you're wishing for?
I watched Back to the Future 2 when it first came out in 87 or 89, something like that. And yeah, I still want a flying car. I know that it doesn't make sense and it's impractical. I don't care.
Yeah.
I want a flying car.
I would also like a flying car. It would be very difficult to manage traffic patterns with cars just zooming around. And just imagine, car accidents now are super dangerous and deadly. If you have a car accident and it's 10 stories above your head, that's gonna cause some damage.
But for the most part, I mean, collision avoidance systems in cars these days are getting so good. Certainly we can do that with, I just saw a clip on Twitter of it was a New Year's Eve clock counting down, and you could see the second hand tick, tick, tick to New Year's Eve, to New Year's Day. It was 500 drones flying in formation automatically.
That's crazy.
That is amazing. So we can have flying cars. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Of course, those drones probably can only fly for about 20 minutes before they need to go recharge.
Yeah, that's not the point. But, I mean, we could have, things that can, control themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. If we get to having the actual flying car technology, I'm sure the collision avoidance will be good enough by then to handle it.
It'll just be autopilot. We'll get in the car, press a button, and it'll take us where we're going. Yeah,
exactly. Since you mentioned flying cars, that just reminds me, Blade Runner, which is one of my favorite movies.
The original one?
The original one. Well, both are good. 2049 is great too. But I believe the first one took place in November of 2019. So.
Oh, is that right?
Something like that. I know if you watch the movie, I remember someone pointing out on Twitter that we are now past the future as shown in Blade Runner.
Well, and no one mentioned in my Twitter comments that we don't have cloned human slaves.
That's probably a good thing.
Probably a good thing. I was just watching the Lost in Space new series on Netflix. Season 2 just came out a couple weeks ago, or this week, something like that. And I was thinking, I wanted to go and look up the story of the original Lost in Space, which I only saw a few episodes of. And so I go and look it up, and apparently it was filmed, it was set in 1995 when humanity was going out to colonize the stars.
Right.
That's what they expected to be happening by 1995, back when it was filmed.
And when was the original show out?
It was late
70s, 60s?
Or early 70s, yeah. It was looking 20 years into the future, something like that.
Yeah. Gotta look further ahead as we make new sci-fi films and such, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last question I have for you before we actually start going on to the news. You make any New Year's resolutions you want to share?
I don't really do that, actually.
Yeah. Okay. That's okay. I don't really make resolutions either, although I did start going to the gym more regularly 2 months ago, and I just want to make sure I keep up with that. So
I've been happy to get back to using my weights and equipment and stuff that I have at home since I've been home.
Right.
Okay. Not a resolution, but I'm sitting there in the living room today, and I'm looking at the stack of DVDs and Blu-rays that I have not yet ripped to my file server. Which, questionable legality of breaking the encryption there. I'm still keeping them for my own personal use and keeping the original disc. And so I just, so far today, have ripped something like 15 movies. So that's kind of like, hey, it's January 1st. Maybe I should be slightly more organized and do things that have been sitting here for 5 years kind of thing.
I haven't done that in a while. I do still like owning the physical Blu-ray, but usually you get that digital code now. I haven't felt the need to actually rip a disc in a long time.
Uh, for me, it's a little bit of being able to watch the movies no matter where I am in the world,
Locally.
the
Yeah,
travel, and put them on my devices and whatever.
that makes sense. Okay, well, into some of these news articles. We're actually just talking about flying cars, and this first one is about the merger of Misra and Autosar C++ standards, which will be very important if we ever do get to flying cars. Um, so I think we may have mentioned this a little bit on the podcast. We talked about Misra C++. It's not something I'm familiar with. I don't work in the auto industry, but
hmm
if you're listening and you do work in the auto industry, I'm sure you've heard of these. But the big takeaway from this article, and it's somewhat lengthy, is that these two auto standards, Misra and Autosar, are merging into one. And the nice thing about that is that Misra was still targeting an older version of C++. It's Misra C++ 2008.
Yeah, it was targeting
And
C++03, yeah.
right, right. So the new standard, I believe it said in here that it's targeting C++ 14, and I think they're committed to update it to C++ 17. So if you're in the auto industry and you rely on checkers that use these standards, you should be able to start using more modern C++, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm mostly aware of this from teaching, where people will
Okay.
tell me like, oh, well, we want to do X and Y, but the Misra standards won't let us use the modern features, basically.
It does, just from reading through this, it does sound like they are allowed to like make exclusions. Like if
Yes.
you have some code, then this static analyzer with Misra is going to flag it, but you can, just write an explanation of why you're doing what you're doing and why it's okay. But I guess just not having to do that by having it updated to use C++ 14 will be great.
Well, I think there's also just misconception or misunderstanding from a lot of people who do have to meet these requirements,
Hmm.
and they don't know that they can just document an exclusion to it.
Right. Or they don't know why it's even complaining about like, my for each loop when I can do that in the code.
Right.
Why doesn't this standard not let me do it? Yeah. Anything else you wanted to mention with this one?
I did find it, I mean, I did read the whole article,
Hmm.
and if I understood it all correctly, it sounds like Misra was doing its thing and then stagnated. So
Yeah.
Autosar basically forked Misra, as I understand it,
And now
so
they're
that they could
merging
update.
back.
What's that?
And now they're merging back.
Yeah, now they're merging back. That's what it
Okay.
sounded like to me, which I found, well, interesting anyhow. And part of the problem that they're pointing out is their rule numbers have diverged. So you might have an exclusion in Misra for a particular rule, and it's still going to
Right.
flag an Autosar, and you have to like exclude both of them if you're using both.
Yes, so that's definitely something you should be aware of if you're using these and have made some exclusions for your analyzer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this next one is Python interpreter in the new debugger. And apparently this is something that was added in GDB 7 that you can now, run Python from within GDB. Is that basically what changed?
Yeah, and I think there's been, what is his
Is
name?
GDB 7 fairly new?
We're on GDB 9 at the
Oh,
moment.
we are. Okay, so this is a while ago that this actually happened.
It's been a
Okay.
little while ago that it was added in. I don't know how old this article is, but it's still some interesting information on getting started with it. It's, I believe, one of the guests that we have had on in the past from UndoDB. I might be getting my stories crossed. Has done a bunch of GDB talks at CppCon.
Yeah, Greg Law.
Greg Law. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 So I think that he's mentioned this ability also in those talks. So depending on how you prefer to consume this information, you can go and read this article or maybe go look for one of Greg Law's talks.
Okay. I'll look for some of those links and put them in the show notes. But this definitely, I had never heard of this before. And if you're not using like a GUI debugger built on GDB, this seems like it would, be a pretty powerful way to get more out of GDB from the command
Yes.
line. Yeah. So basically you can write like full Python functions and just run them in order to like do a dump of the memory or other things like that.
Can I go on a rant for just a second,
You
though?
sure can, yeah.
Sounds great. All right. Um, Python is
hmm
never intended for embedding.
Okay.
It has a single global state and a global interpreter lock. It's the GIL. If you embed it in another project, you have exactly one Python that you can embed. And this can cause problems. So I just want to say Python is not intended for integrating in your project. I don't want people to like, hey, that's a great idea. I'm going to put Python in my project now. It's terrible at it. I mean, I'm not a
What?
huge fan of Lua, but Lua was
Right.
designed for that.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, what language do you think would be better for this type of thing?
What was that? AngelScript was designed for it, which isn't very well known. ChaiScript was designed for it, but I haven't done any active support on that in a couple of years now. And Lua was designed for it.
I mean, I guess they're going for Python just for its popularity, I guess.
Probably, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, Python's text processing and whatever, and their libraries is unmatched. So in that
Mhm.
regard, it's the right language to use.
Yeah. And you can use like all of Python's libraries, right? With while
Yeah,
doing
it
this?
looks
Yeah.
they're using pigments even to do syntax highlighting of code snippets and whatever.
It's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Okay, this next one is from Arthur Dwyer's blog, and it's holiday fun with template class and template type name. Jason, I might need you to explain what's going on in this one for me a bit.
I was hoping you could explain it. I'm looking at this. I've been doing some form of template metaprogramming for like 17, 16 years now. And I've
Uh-huh.
never even tried any of the things that he's talking about on here.
Yeah. I I feel like this blog post should be a lot longer and really try to explain what's going on because most of the blog post is actually just these code snippets showing different ways of creating template types and not really explaining what's going on. I'm honestly a bit confused by all of it.
I think I actually can summarize
Go for it.
what he's demonstrating, but
Uh-huh.
the hows and whys, no.
Yeah.
Those of us who are used to writing templates expect that type name and class as template parameters are synonymous.
hmm
And that is true if it's a top level name or whatever you would call it. So if you just have class T or type name T, those are
Yeah.
synonymous.
Right.
If you have some sort of dependent name where you're doing like class T colon colon U or type name T colon colon U, that's his first two examples there, then things diverge. In one case with class, it's going to require it to be a class, and with type name, it can be any type. It doesn't have to be a class,
Right.
which is weird, but
hmm
as I started by saying, I've never written code that looks like that. And I'm not entirely sure when you would.
Right. What would be the point of doing this? Yeah.
Yes. And he goes on to say, like, clearly not very many people use these because every compiler does something different. Some of them compile things, some of them don't, some of them ice, whatever.
Yeah. Internal compiler error. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I figured since you put it in there, you were going to explain.
No, no, I saw it and it sounded kind of interesting when I first was pulling links together for this, and then I went and read it and I'm like, oh God, what did I do? Okay. This next one is interesting. It's another GitHub repository, and it's actually from I think the same author who made a GitHub repo we talked about, I think 2 episodes ago, which was the command line progress bar one.
Is it?
I think it's the same guy.
It
Um,
is.
yeah, and this one is called Tabulate, and it is for creating tables that would get printed out, in the command line or whatever. Uh, and I mean, again, just like that progress bar, like these tables that the library is producing look beautiful.
It makes me happier than it should. It really does.
Yeah.
I like
It's
I
not quite, it doesn't have the fun GIF that the other one had with the progress bars, but it's really nice to look at.
well to that yeah, so that's something that was not immediately obvious to me. This is a you build your table and
Hmm.
then print it.
Right.
This isn't like a TUI or anything like that. That's not like interactive in any way
Hmm.
or dynamic.
Right. But you can just add your, columns and rows and then apply formatting to make it look nicer without
Yeah.
having to, worry about exact spacing and things like that. Looks handy.
Left aligned,
Yeah.
horizontal aligned, center, right aligned.
Right.
It is
Um,
pretty.
it is. I was just going to look at what other libraries he has because it seems like he is focusing on, making these console-based libraries. So he's got indicators, tabulate, argument parser, pretty printer. So he's got a couple of these.
CSV parser,
Hmm.
file system watcher. If that's aha, for now only works on Linux. I'm like, if this is an easy to use file system watcher that's cross-platform, I have uses for that like yesterday, but it's not.
Okay. Yeah, very cool though. Okay, and then we haven't mentioned this in a while, but meeting C++, all of the talks have been slowly going up. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Jens does some of that editing himself, so they don't go all at once the way CppCon does.
I think in
But
previous years he did it all himself, but I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah,
how many talks do we have so far? There's 12
well,
videos up so far.
clearly a ways to go. I'm sure. Yeah,
Yeah. Do you know like approximately how many talks happen at that conference? I
it's
think it's
like 4 or
50.
5 tracks for 3 full days.
Okay.
So 420, at least 60.
Right. Okay.
Be off by like an order of magnitude or something. I don't know, or a factor anyhow, not an order of magnitude.
Right. Okay. And then we have a whole bunch of call for papers.
Yeah, I collected these. I thought,
Well, yeah, and it's good to point out, all these conferences coming into 2020, since we are on the first of the year, and let speakers know some of the conferences that are going to be out there because it's a lot more than just, CppCon and meeting C++. There's a whole bunch of these. First one is using Stood CPP 2020 in Madrid,
yeah,
and this is going to be April 16th.
through
And
April 16th. It's a one-day conference.
yeah, it's just one day conference. And when is the actual call for papers end? Does it say?
It ends January 20th.
Okay. So you
So the
have
link that
just under 3 weeks.
yeah, and the link that we will post is the link to the actual that where you can actually do the submission.
Right.
And
Okay.
so there's several of these are conferences we've never talked about before.
Yeah, or just barely mentioned, but there might be a C++ conference, in a city near you, so it's worth looking into.
Probably.
Yeah. So yeah, this first one is using Stood CPP, which is in Madrid. The next one we have is C++ Russia, which I've never been, but I've heard it's a huge conference. I know Bryce and some other of our former guests have gone to that one this year, I believe, or
Yeah.
last year. So what are the dates on this one?
Um,
Do-do-do.
Call for Papers closes February 10.
February 10th. Okay.
And the talk is April 27th through the 28th. Now, what I don't see at the moment It's which city they're holding this particular one in, because CPP Russia moves.
Right. It's not always in Moscow. It says it's in Moscow this year. April 27th to 28th in Moscow, Square of
Okay.
Europe. Yeah. Okay. C++ Now, this is one we have talked about a bit before. So their call for submissions is, well, the conference itself is May 3rd to 8th, 2020.
Uh-huh.
And try and find the other date. Where
It's
is
at the
call for
bottom.
submissions? It's on the bottom.
January 22nd.
January 22nd. Okay.
So we did not mention Madrid or Russia just now, whether or not the conference pays for your travel. My understanding is that using a small one-day conference that's free, like using StudCpp in Madrid.
Probably not.
Yeah. So they say we will have a number of travel support packages for speakers. It'll cover plane ticket and hotel.
Oh, okay.
So that's definitely something.
Nice.
C++ Russia doesn't, I don't immediately see.
No, I don't see anything on Russia.
Click here. I'm almost positive that they do.
Okay. I mean, they're a pretty big conference, so I wouldn't be surprised if they do.
Yeah. I really want to know, though. We'll reimburse you for all your travel experiences. All right.
Awesome.
Okay.
And then you said that C++ Now does.
C++ Now, that's what I thought to bring this up. C++ Now does not pay travel or hotel, actually. You just get a free ticket for C++ Now.
Oh, okay.
Unless they change something drastically, which I don't think, because it's a very small conference that's not terribly expensive for the venue and everything for a full week conference.
Okay. Now, this next one I've definitely never heard of. This is C++ Core Hard, which is in Belarus. And the conference is going to be April 10th and 11th. And the call for speakers ends on March 15th. And again, this link that we're going to put in the show notes is going to be just an actual Google form where you can fill in your talk proposal.
And it looks like this one is in both Russian and English.
Oh, okay.
Minsk. Okay.
Minsk, Belarus, yeah.
Do you see if they provide accommodation expenses? So they have the option to apply for compensation from the conference on the submission form there.
Right.
So, you know what? I should take a moment here. The reason I'm making a point of trying to point this out for each one of these is I've had several conversations with people lately who are like, oh, well, I spoke at CppCon, but they didn't cover travel expenses. If you tell the conference organizers for CppCon that you need it, yes, they 100% will cover your travel expenses.
It is certainly worth mentioning because if you are going to be a first-time speaker, you might not know if that's an option. You might say, hey, I'm going to go to this conference anyway. I'm already, buying a ticket, buying my travel. But if you're planning on speaking, you should find out if they'll cover it for you. Yeah.
And definitely ask the conference before you buy or book anything. Because some of them have specific rules. They want to, do your hotel booking for you or whatever. And sometimes that can be, worked around depending on the situation. But make sure you ask first and get the rules first. And then not all conferences can do it. But, if you are interested in speaking at a conference, absolutely find out what the deal is and go to one of these conferences that pays for your travel.
Yeah. Okay, this next one is another one that I don't think we've mentioned before, but it's a pretty big one. It's the Qt World Summit. And yeah, their call for speakers is open. Another one is, this one's January 20th, 2020, so 3 weeks about. And what are the dates on this conference? May 12th to 14th in Palm Springs, California.
This is an interesting one for those of us who have presented before, because I see important date, April 10th. Full presentations and slides must be submitted by April 10th.
Interesting.
I don't know
So
any speaker that isn't working on the talk the night before.
I, I remember when we were at CppCon going on to the Slack chat,
Uh-huh.
because they set up a Slack specifically for the conference. And I remember seeing some people who were at the conference saying, hey, I really wish I had been able to like see slides or just more details about this talk before I went to it because
Huh.
it wasn't what I was expecting.
Okay.
And there were several, speakers saying, well, I was working on my slides the night before. How could I have gotten them out? And then, like you're saying, lots of speakers and who only finish their stuff like maybe the week before.
I know
So
some
yeah,
who only start the week before, but you know.
yeah. So that's certainly interesting that you need to have your stuff done a month ahead of time. But I guess that's probably for that reason, so that they can. It's either so that they can do some approval process, or that so they can make it public to conference attendees
I have no idea.
beforehand.
And this is the only conference that we've mentioned today, I
Hmm.
think, that is, that is for a specific company, basically, or a specific product, right?
Right, right. I
I don't
mean,
know. It's
I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if there's some more kind of generic C++ talks going on at the Qt conference.
Yeah, no, but I just meant like since it's hosted by a company, maybe they feel like they need to have a better idea what's going to be talked about.
Yeah,
I'm just
that
hypothesizing here.
that's interesting though, because like Microsoft has their big conference, but all of their speakers are going to be internal to Microsoft, and I'm sure those speakers have to like go through an internal process. But it's kind of interesting where it is a company-run conference, but they're asking for external speakers. That's a interesting point.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's another side note is if you go to make a conference submission on the Slack, CVP Slack, and on the include
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Discord.
Discord.
Yeah.
There are people there who are able to review your conference submissions for you and give you good feedback on them.
Yeah. That's a good thing to mention.
Yeah, which is not me, just for the record. I'm like 0 for 4.
Yeah, but there's certainly people out there who would be more than willing to give you some feedback before you submit.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one we have is CppP 2020,
PP.
which is the C++ Paris conference. And we talked to the guys running this one last year, and I believe they're the ones that didn't have a call for speakers. They just
Right.
announced it with their full slate of speakers already prepared. So this time around, they are going to do a call for speakers.
And this one, if you are selected to be a speaker, we will cover the price of the ticket for you. And an additional ticket if you want to bring someone else to the conference.
Oh, wow. That's great.
But that's just for the conference entry.
Not the travel. Okay.
Yeah, hotels and transportation, they will provide economy class flight if you ask for it.
Okay. And the deadline for the call for speakers here is February 29th. And when do we have the dates for this one? Or do they just have the call for speakers so far? I'm not sure if I see it.
Well, June 22nd through the 23rd.
Okay. Great.
Maybe I should submit to CppPPP.
So many P's. I mean, it would be great to go to Paris.
Yeah.
June, I'm sure, is a nice time of year.
Yeah, well, that exact week
Mm-hmm.
last year was when all of Central Europe was having record-breaking heat, and not all of these cities have air conditioning. I think Paris does, but more Northern Europe doesn't. Just something to think about.
Yeah. I wonder if they'll start getting some AC over there if they keep having that happen.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Well, I think that's all of our conference announcements. I'm going to let you make this last announcement here, Jason.
Well, I think before we move on to the last one, I just want to say I have not submitted to any of these, and I still have no idea what I'm going to talk about in 2020.
You got time. But yeah,
Well, I don't have very much
you
time
don't
if
have
I'm
very
going to
much time.
submit
Some of
the...
these are 3 weeks away. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Do you have any ideas of which conferences you want to attend?
Well, I know I'm going to CppCon.
Sure.
I mean, that would be crazy silly for me
That's
not
the
to.
big one, especially now that it's in your backyard.
Right. And I missed C++ Now last year. I would like to go again this year, but I just have no idea what to submit for it.
Mm-hmm.
And other than that, I don't know. CppPPP could be cool. Some of the other ones that I would think about have maybe submitting to, the call for submissions have already ended. So I only mentioned the ones that still have call for submissions
Yeah,
up.
which ones for 2020 are already done call for submissions? I guess the one Phil runs, CPP on C.
Yes.
Okay, because that one's
And
fairly soon, right?
no, CPP on C is also in June, but he
Oh,
already
okay.
closed his submissions.
Okay.
Total Chaos, which is going to be in Sofia, Bulgaria at the same time as the standards meeting, has already closed their call for submissions, but that's a thing. ACCU Bristol for March has already closed theirs.
I have never heard of Total Chaos. This is a programming conference?
It's brand new, I think.
Okay.
I think the conference basically came up because of the standards meeting being there.
Huh.
And, I just realized I don't see any information at all about Core C++.
That is the Israel one, right?
Yeah, I know that's May 14th through the 17th. Oh, no, that's May 14th through the 17th, 2019.
Okay, so they just haven't announced new dates yet.
It looks like they haven't announced it yet. Yeah. So maybe that'll come up again. I will say Israel was a good time.
I bet.
And I think they paid for travel expenses for all the speakers on that one. So one to keep in mind if you're interested.
Okay.
All right. So then yes.
C++ Weekly.
The ominous thing that you said that you would let me introduce. I just did 200 straight weeks of C++ Weekly. Monday was my 200th episode.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Boy, that's almost 4 years straight.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
It really makes me think about all the episodes, all the weeks we've missed, and I feel like we should try to be better this year with CppCast.
I think we did really good this past
We did do good. I think we may have missed 4 or 5 weeks.
Considering my travel schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's certainly a great accomplishment with C++ Weekly.
When was episode 1?
CppCast?
Yeah.
I think it was February 2015. Is that right?
That's what it looks like on our notes here. That was John. So almost 5 full years and 4 full years of C++ Weekly now. So my 200th episode is basically I've gone through and I have taken something like 25 of my previous episodes and have made a playlist of basically a class. So I've only released the first chapter of the class. That was episode 200. I've got 4 more chapters to go. But it's watch the intro, watch 6 episodes, and then get your homework assignment, do the homework, and then come back next week where I'll discuss the answer to the homework assignment.
That's a really cool idea. So you have 7 episodes here, and you're saying watch them in this order.
Yeah.
Not in like the chronological order, because some of these are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. So chronological order with C++ Weekly makes no sense at all, because I basically just recorded each episode on just whatever sounded like fun at the moment.
Sure.
And to be perfectly honest,
organized them into a lesson plan. Okay.
I am organizing them into a lesson plan here. And I may go and re-edit them so that you don't have to watch the playlist, but you can just watch like a chapter and then a chapter.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do that. I'm going to see what kind of response I get to this. I think predictably, since I released it in the week between Christmas and New Year's, I haven't gotten very many people actually watching the episode.
Well, if you're listening now, you should definitely go check out Jason's, first course of C++ Weekly episodes. I mean, if you're not watching it already, you should definitely check this out. Yeah.
I am, over 33,000 subscribers now?
That's a lot. I mean, it sounds like a lot. I don't know too much about YouTube.
It's a lot-ish. It doesn't become a big
like
deal
a lot
until you have 100,000.
Okay.
At 100,000 is when YouTube actually recognizes you and they send you a plaque with a silver play button on it.
That's pretty cool. I mean, so you got into 33,000 over the past 4 years, though. That's impressive. And I imagine it just kind of keeps growing.
Yeah, at the rate that it's growing, I'll probably hit 100,000 in the next 5 years.
Okay.
Something like that. I'm currently gaining something like 1,100 subscribers every 30 days at the moment.
Nice. Okay. Well, anything else you want to go over, Jason, before we end this one?
I don't know. I guess I should mention that I am still available for training. If anyone's interested, you can drop me a note and we can talk about getting on the schedule.
Cool.
What about you?
I don't think I have anything else to go over. Just that, we will have a normal episode next week with a guest and, plenty of CppCast to come this year. I mean, we got a lot to look forward to this year. C++ 20 standard is pretty much ink dry. I think there will be one more meeting to do more bug fixes, but it should be an exciting year.
Prague is coming up soon.
Yeah, when are the ISO meetings this year? That's a good question.
Prague is in February, yes.
Yep.
Hosted by Avast.
And then Bulgaria in June.
Which is hosted by VMware and the Chaos Group, which is the same people doing the conference that's attached to it.
Right. And the last one this year is going to be in November in New York.
It's funny because it says New York, and I don't know. Last I heard, there was some possibility that it was actually maybe technically going to be in New Jersey.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I don't know if that information has changed or been updated yet. Notice there's no link here or anything.
It says sponsored by Bloomberg, and I imagine Bloomberg's got a pretty big office in New York, I believe.
Yeah, they've got, I believe, 3. 2 of them are in Manhattan. Third one, I'm not sure where it is. And then Kona's coming back up in February.
Yeah.
Of 2021. Now, Hannah, who we just mentioned kind of tangentially by mentioning Avast.
Yep.
Yeah, and Prague, just posted a tweet saying that she fell in love with Hawaii when she was there for the last Kona. And I said, wait a minute, we have always been told, now Rob, you can back me up on this, right? We've always been told that they don't actually get to see Hawaii at all. They are trapped in a dark windowless room the entire time.
That is always what I was told, yes.
Well, apparently some of them actually do see Hawaii while they're there.
They're able to get out. I mean, it would be a great excuse to go to Hawaii. Maybe we should think about that for next year. I would love to go to one of these meetings one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
On that note, I'll talk to you next week, Jason.
All right. Talk to you later, Rob.
Have a good one.